like the other men who crumble and beg. You're different. You're stoic. You have self-respect. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Walking away embodies this principle. You stop trying to control her feelings. Instead, you control your own actions, and in doing so, you flip the entire power dynamic. Think about it like this in Manchester. James once told me a story about how he fell in love with Sarah. She was stunning, funny, magnetic, but Sarah loved attention and James gave her all of it. She took his devotion, but she didn't respect it. One day, she told him, "I think we should just be friends." Most men would panic, beg or bargain, but James remembered what his father had told him. Never chase someone walking away. Stand still and let them feel the loss. So James didn't argue. He smiled, said, "Fair enough, Sarah, I wish you the best." And he vanished. 2 weeks later, Sarah couldn't stop thinking about him. Why? Because his silence was louder than words. She had rejected him, but he had rejected her rejection. That's the true power of walking away. Walking away is not about playing games. It's about proving to yourself that your value does not depend on anyone's approval. It shows her, and more importantly, it shows you that you are not desperate. You are a man of abundance, a man who knows his worth. And the paradox is this: when you have the strength to walk away, you often give her the strongest reason to chase you back. Never forget, in Sydney and London, in Los Angeles, in every corner of the world, women are wired the same way. They respect what they fear to lose. Walking away doesn't just save your dignity, it creates desire. Lesson 2. Why saying no makes you valuable. When was the last time you told a woman no? Think carefully. Most men never do. They say yes to every date, every favor, every request. They think compliance equals love. But here's the cold reality. A man who can't say no becomes invisible. His approval becomes worthless. In Toronto, Michael had been dating Olivia for a year. She was beautiful, ambitious, and used to men worshiping her. Michael thought the secret to keeping her was saying yes to everything. "Yes, I'll cancel my plans. Yes, I'll help you with that. Yes, I'll pay for this." At first, Olivia enjoyed the attention, but soon she began to test him. She would ask for small favors, then bigger ones, just to see how far he would bend. And each time, Michael said yes. Slowly, Olivia lost respect for him. One day when Olivia asked Michael to skip an important work meeting just to hang out, he paused. For the first time, he looked at her and said, "No, not this time. I've got something I need to handle." At first, she was shocked. She was used to Michael bending over backwards. But something changed in that moment. For the first time in months, she looked at him with respect again. Because saying no reminded her that his time, his energy, and his presence had value. Marcus Aurelius lived by restraint. He believed that power comes from denying yourself, from refusing to be controlled by impulses. The same applies in relationships. When you say no, you create scarcity. You remind her that your yes is not cheap, not automatic, not for sale. And scarcity always creates value. In Los Angeles, Daniel shared a story of how he was dating Sarah, a woman who thrived on male attention. One night, she wanted him to drive across the city at midnight just to bring her food. Every bone in his body wanted to please her, but something inside told him to hold his ground. He replied, "Not tonight, Sarah, I've got work in the morning." Sarah was furious in the moment. But guess what? The next day, she called him first thing in the morning. Why? Because his refusal planted a seed. For the first time, she realized Daniel wasn't her servant. He was a man who valued his own priorities. That realization made her desire him more. Saying no is not cruelty. It's clarity. It communicates boundaries. And boundaries are attractive because they signal strength. Most men think women want everything they ask for. Wrong. Women want a man strong enough to deny them sometimes, because that denial proves he's not afraid of losing them. Think about it. A king's crown is valuable because not everyone can touch it. Your approval should be the same. If every random request, every fleeting desire gets your yes, then your yes is worthless. But when you guard it, when you make her earn it, when you give it only at the right moments, your yes becomes priceless. So remember this, the man who can't say no will always live in the shadow of men who can. If you want her respect, her desire, her obsession, sometimes the most powerful word you can speak is the shortest one. No. Lesson 3, indifference as a weapon. Indifference is the silent weapon every man has, but almost no man uses. It doesn't require shouting, chasing, or proving yourself. It requires the opposite, stillness. And yet nothing rattles a woman more than genuine indifference. Let me take you to London, where James, a 32-year-old consultant, was madly in love with Sarah, a woman who seemed to thrive on male attention. She was used to men bending over backwards, showering her with compliments and fighting for her time. James at first did same. He was eager, always reaching out, always trying to impress. And predictably, Sarah became colder. She knew she had him, so why should she value him? But something changed. One night, after being ignored for days, James made a decision. He didn't block her. He didn't send angry texts. He didn't write a dramatic goodbye. He simply stopped caring. He shifted his focus back to his gym sessions, his work, his friends in Manchester. He lived his life as though Sarah had never existed. A week later, his phone buzzed. It was Sarah. "Hey, how have you been? You've been quiet." That's the paradox. His absence made her curious, and his indifference made her feel the sting of her own insignificance. Why does this happen? Psychology has a brutal truth. People desire what validates them, and they fear indifference more than rejection. Rejection can hurt, but at least it acknowledges you. Indifference denies your existence altogether. For a woman used to being admired, indifference feels like suffocation. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." Indifference embodies this philosophy. It shows that your emotions are not puppets for someone else to control. You remain unmoved, calm, focused, and that ironically draws people back. In New York, Michael once shared a story about a woman named Emily who loved games. She would flirt, pull back, then reappear. Most men fell into her trap, but Michael chose indifference. When she pulled away, he didn't chase. When she returned, he didn't explode with joy. He simply responded as though nothing had changed. Over time, Emily grew frustrated. She wasn't used to indifference. She was used to drama, attention, validation, and the more he stayed calm, the more she obsessed. Here's the truth. Women are emotional creatures and they test men constantly, but indifference ends the game before it begins. You show that you are not moved by mood swings, manipulations, or attention tricks, and that composure becomes magnetic. Think about Sydney. A man named Daniel once told me that after his breakup, his ex tried to provoke him by posting pictures with other guys. Instead of reacting, instead of messaging her, Daniel scrolled past like she didn't exist. Weeks later, she texted, "Do you even care?" That's the weapon of indifference. It forces the other person to chase validation, to seek your acknowledgement, to prove themselves to you. Indifference is not about acting cold or cruel. It's about showing you have a life, a mission, a purpose that doesn't revolve around her. The man who masters indifference doesn't play games, he lives above them. And in doing so, he becomes the prize. Remember this. Women don't lose sleep over men who love them too much. They lose sleep over the man who doesn't seem to need them at all. That's the man who lives rent-free in their mind. Lesson 4. Women chase what they fear losing. There's a brutal truth about desire that most men never accept. Women don't chase what they already have. They chase what they fear slipping away. This is called loss aversion, and it's one of the strongest forces in human psychology. People fear losing more than they value gaining, and women, when it comes to attraction, are no exception. Let's look at a story from Los Angeles. Michael had been dating Olivia for a year. At first, she adored him. But as time went on, Michael became predictable. He was always available, always answering her texts within seconds, always saying yes. Slowly, her excitement faded. She didn't fear losing him because she knew she couldn't. But one summer, Michael got a promotion at work. He became busier, less available, more focused. He stopped being at her every beck and call. Suddenly, Olivia felt something she hadn't felt in months. Fear. Fear that she was no longer his number one priority. Fear that his attention could go elsewhere. And that fear reignited her desire. It's the same in Manchester. James once told me that when he pulled back slightly from Sarah, not disappearing, but no longer over-investing, she started chasing him again. She asked more questions, initiated conversations, tried harder to keep his attention. Why? Because she sensed the possibility of loss. Marcus Aurelius lived with death in his mind. He constantly reminded himself that everything could be taken at any moment. That awareness made him value what he had more deeply. Women are wired the same way in relationships. The thought of losing a man makes them value him more than constant reassurance ever could. In Toronto, Daniel once ignored this principle. He gave endless attention to Emily. thinking it would make her feel secure. Instead, it made her complacent. She didn't chase him because there was nothing to chase. She knew he wasn't going anywhere. Eventually, she grew bored and drifted away. Contrast that with another story from Sydney. A man named James started dating Sarah. He liked her deeply, but he never let her feel like he was 100% guaranteed. Not in a manipulative way, but in the sense that he had his own life, his own priorities. He loved her, but he didn't worship her. And because of that, Sarah never stopped chasing. She feared losing him, and that fear kept her desire alive. The mistake most men make is smothering women with attention, thinking it proves love. But desire doesn't grow in certainty. Desire grows in uncertainty. The thought of loss is what fuels passion. Here's the paradox: if you want a woman to keep chasing, you must let her feel she could lose you. That doesn't mean playing cruel games. It means living a life so full, so independent, that she knows she must keep earning her place in it. So remember this: women don't chase guarantees. They chase possibilities. They chase uncertainty. They chase what they fear losing. If you want her to desire you forever, don't hand yourself to her on a silver platter. Be the man who could walk away. Be the man she can't afford to lose. Lesson 5. Silence hurts more than words. When a relationship breaks, most men use words as weapons. They argue, they beg, they scream, they try to explain. But here's the hidden truth: silence is sharper than any word you could ever say. Silence cuts deeper because it forces her to face herself. Let me take you to New York. Daniel had been dating Emily for almost 2 years. She was beautiful, magnetic, but she had a habit of pushing him away whenever things got serious. One night, after yet another fight, Emily shouted, "Maybe we're just not right for each other." Daniel's first instinct was to argue, to prove her wrong, but something inside him shifted. He remembered his father's advice: never fight for someone walking away. Let silence speak. So Daniel said nothing. He didn't text. He didn't call. Days turned into weeks, and suddenly Emily wasn't so sure. She expected drama, anger, tears. Instead, she got silence. And that silence screamed louder than anything Daniel could have said. Why does silence hurt more than words? Because words can be argued with. If you beg, she can reject you. If you explain, she can deny it. But silence? Silence leaves her with no answer, no defense. Silence is a mirror, forcing her to replay the breakup in her own head. It makes her question herself. Did he ever love me? How can he just walk away like that? Why isn't he fighting for me? Marcus Aurelius once said, "Silence is a lesson learned from the many sufferings of life." The Stoics believed silence was a form of strength, a refusal to be enslaved by emotions. And in relationships, it's a power most men never use. In Manchester, James experienced this firsthand. After Sarah ended things, he resisted the urge to send her long emotional paragraphs. Instead, he disappeared into silence. 3 weeks later, Sarah texted him, "I can't stop thinking about you." Why? Because silence creates absence, and absence creates value. Silence is not weakness. It's not avoidance. It's strategy. It tells her without words that you respect yourself too much to beg. It tells her that if she leaves alone, you will not follow. And that absence gnaws at her mind. Think about Sydney. Michael once shared a story about Olivia, a woman who thought she could control every man in her life. But when she tried her games with Michael, he responded with nothing but silence. At first she mocked him, then she questioned him, and finally she chased him, because silence is not neutral. Silence is dominance. Remember this: anger can be ignored, tears can be pitied, begging can be rejected. But silence? Silence lingers in her head long after you've walked away. Silence is the voice she can't silence. Lesson 6. Why women test men constantly. If you've ever wondered why women throw strange challenges at men, here's the truth: women test men because tests reveal strength. They want to know if you can lead, if you can hold your ground, if you're worthy of their respect. These tests are not random, they are instinctual. Take London. James was dating Olivia and things were going well. But Olivia would make small comments like, "You never spend enough time with me," or she'd flirt with another guy just to see his reaction. Most men would panic, get jealous, or try harder. James, however, understood something vital. Tests are not about the surface. They're about emotional strength. So instead of reacting, he stayed calm. He laughed, he shrugged, he remained unshaken. And that calmness made Olivia respect him even more. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You must build up your life action by action, and be content if each one achieves its goal as far as possible." Women test men action by action, not because they're cruel, but because they want to see if you can withstand pressure. A woman will test your patience, your jealousy, your ambition, not to destroy you, but to measure you. In Los Angeles, Daniel faced this with Sarah. She would cancel plans last minute just to see if he'd explode. She wanted to know if his emotions controlled him, or if he controlled them. And when Daniel didn't break, when he stayed centered, Sarah's attraction deepened. Because women don't fall for the man who breaks easily. They fall for the man who remains unmoved. In Toronto, Michael told me about his ex Emily. She constantly pushed him, asking for things, questioning him, even comparing him to other men. Michael saw it as nagging. But looking back, he realized it was testing. She was probing to see if he was firm in his values or if he'd crumble to please her. And sadly, he often failed. Each failure eroded her respect until finally she left. Here's the truth. Women don't test men they don't care about. They only test men they see potential in. Sarah won't test the guy she finds boring. Emily won't test the guy she doesn't value. Tests mean she's watching, measuring, waiting to see if you're the man you claim to be. Think about Manchester. A man named Daniel once shared how his girlfriend tried to provoke jealousy by laughing a little too loud at another man's joke. Instead of reacting, Daniel smiled, leaned back, and said nothing. That calm confidence ended the test right there. She realized she couldn't control him, and that made her want him more. So remember this, test will never stop. Whether you're dating, married, or even divorced, women will keep testing. Not because they hate you, but because they need to know. They need to know you can withstand storms. They need to know you're a rock, not a feather in the wind. The men who fail tests beg, break, or lash out. The men who pass tests remain calm, stoic, unmoved. And those are the men women chase, respect, and cling to. Lesson 7, the trap of overvalidation. Most men believe that the more compliments they give, the more love they'll receive. They think validation is a way to keep a woman close. But the truth is darker. Overvalidation kills attraction. What's free loses value. Let's go to Los Angeles. Daniel had been dating Sarah for 3 months. She was stunning, the type of woman who turned heads everywhere she went. Daniel felt lucky, and he made sure she knew it. Every day he told her she was beautiful. Every dinner he praised her. Every photo she posted he commented with fire emojis. At first Sarah smiled, but slowly her interest began to fade. Why? Because Daniel's validation was constant, predictable, and cheap. She didn't need to earn it. She didn't need to chase it. And what comes too easily is never respected. Contrast this with James from London. James dated Emily, and yes, he complimented her, but rarely. When he did, it was specific and powerful. "You looked incredible tonight. The way you carry yourself is magnetic." His compliments came like rare gems, not loose change. Emily never took them for granted because they weren't constant. She had to earn them. Marcus Aurelius taught restraint, not only in emotions but in actions. He believed that discipline creates meaning. In relationships, restraint and validation creates power. If you flood her with approval, she'll drown in it and stop caring. If you withhold it completely, she'll starve and walk away. The key is balance. In New York, Michael learned this the hard way. His ex Olivia once told him, "You make it too easy. I already know I've got you. There's no challenge." That sentence shattered him, but it opened his eyes. Women don't crave endless validation. They crave the thrill of earning it. Think about Manchester. A man named Daniel shared how he flipped his relationship around simply by reducing his praise. Instead of constant compliments, he became selective. Instead of feeding her ego daily, he made his approval rare. And suddenly, Sarah started dressing better, trying harder, craving his words again. Why? Because scarcity breeds value. Remember this. When validation becomes routine, it becomes noise. When validation becomes rare, it becomes music. Women chase what they fear losing, and they value what they fight to earn. Don't hand your power away with constant validation. Make it precious. Lesson 8. Emotional control is masculine power. A woman can forgive many flaws in a man, but losing emotional control is almost never one of them. Anger, jealousy, desperation, panic, these emotions don't just weaken you, they destroy attraction. True masculine power lies in staying calm when everything around you is chaos. Take Sydney, for example. Michael was dating Olivia, and she had a fiery personality. Sometimes she'd test him with harsh words. One night, during a heated argument, She said, "Maybe you're not man enough for me." Most men would explode. But Michael didn't flinch. He looked at her calmly and said, "If that's what you think, you're free to leave." His composure stopped her cold. In that moment, Olivia realized she couldn't control him with insults. And paradoxically, that control made her desire him even more. Why does emotional control matter so much? Because women are emotional storms. They swirl with moods, feelings, and impulses. They test to see if a man can anchor them. If you lose yourself in the storm, she knows you can't protect or lead. But if you stay calm, if you remain stoic, you become the rock she can cling to. Marcus Aurelius embodied this. He faced betrayals, wars, and even plague, yet he remained composed. Writing, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but your estimate of it." He knew control is internal, never external. In London, James told me about Sarah, who once flirted with another man in front of him. Instead of rage, James smiled, shook the man's hand, and carried on with his night. Later, Sarah admitted, "I did that to see if you'd crack. You didn't, and it made me respect you more." Emotional control doesn't mean coldness. It means clarity. It means not letting anger, fear, or desperation dictate your actions. In Toronto, Daniel once panicked when his girlfriend Emily threatened to leave. He begged, pleaded, promised anything, but that desperation killed her attraction. She wanted a leader, not a follower. Emotional control is masculine power because it signals security. A woman feels safe when she knows you won't collapse under pressure. The man who stays calm in storms earns loyalty, respect, and desire. Lesson 9. Why mystery drives desire. Every man wants to be understood. But the brutal truth is this: the more a woman fully understands you, the less she desires you. Mystery is the fuel of attraction. Certainty kills desire. Let's look at New York. Daniel had been with Emily for over a year. At first, she was obsessed with him. He had stories, layers, and surprises. But slowly, he revealed everything. His routines, his fears, his secrets. Soon, Emily felt like she knew every corner of him. And do you know what happened? The spark faded. Not because he was weak, but because there was nothing left to discover. Now take Michael from Los Angeles. He dated Olivia, but unlike Daniel, he kept parts of his life private. Not in a deceptive way, but in a way that made her curious. He had hobbies she didn't fully understand, friends she hadn't met, goals he didn't over-explain. Olivia once confessed, "I feel like I know you, but at the same time, there's always more I want to uncover." That's the power of mystery. Marcus Aurelius himself was mysterious. Even his writings, the meditations, leave gaps. We see his struggles, but not all his answers. That mystery has kept people fascinated for centuries. Humans crave discovery, and once discovery is complete, desire fades. In Manchester, James learned this painfully. He thought openness meant sharing everything with Sarah, every thought, every detail, every insecurity. But instead of making her closer, it made her distant. She didn't feel like she was with a man. She felt like she was reading a manual. The mystery was gone. In Sydney, Daniel once shared that his turning point came when he stopped oversharing. Instead of answering every question about his day, he kept it short and intriguing. Had a productive day? Can't tell you everything yet. That small touch of mystery lit Sarah's curiosity. She asked more, leaned in more, wanted to know more. Women chase mystery because mystery keeps their mind active. It forces them to imagine, to wonder, to pursue. When you give her everything up front, she stops chasing. But when you remain slightly out of reach, slightly unknown, she keeps chasing forever. So remember this. Mystery isn't about playing games or lying. It's about living a life so deep, so full, that no woman can ever fully own you. A man with mystery is a man with endless desire. Lesson 10, the final test, her breaking point. Every man who has been with a woman long enough knows this. There comes a moment where she pushes him to the edge. Not because she hates him, not because she wants to destroy him, but because she wants to see if he will break. This is the final test, and most men fail. In New York, Daniel was dating Emily for 3 years. She loved him deeply, but deep down, she wasn't sure if he was truly the man she could trust for life. She tested him constantly, little arguments, subtle disrespects, emotional games. But one night she went too far. In front of friends, she embarrassed him, making a joke about his masculinity. Everyone laughed. She looked at him, waiting to see if Daniel would shrink, explode, or stand firm. That moment was her breaking point. Because women push until they find the edge of your patience, your discipline, your strength. Most men either crumble with anger or submit with silence. Daniel didn't. He calmly smiled, looked her in the eye and said, "Never mistake my calm for weakness." The room went quiet. He didn't argue. He didn't humiliate her back. He simply showed her that his strength was silent, not reactive. That night changed everything. Emily never tested him the same way again. This is what men fail to understand. Women don't test you because they want to leave you. They test you because they want to stay. They need to know you're unbreakable. They need to know that when life throws storms, you won't fold. If you break at her test, how can you lead her through chaos? In London, James reached this point with Olivia. She threatened to leave him during an argument, expecting him to beg. Instead, James calmly replied, "If you want to go, the door's open. I won't stop you." That was her breaking point. Not because she wanted to leave, but because she wanted to see if James was strong enough to let her. And that's what made her respect him more. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment. The final test is about this, your estimate. Will you let her words control you, or will you control yourself?" In Sydney, Michael had his moment with Sarah. She went silent for days after a fight, expecting him to chase. Most men would have begged, called, texted nonstop. Michael didn't. He gave her space, focused on his training, his work, his brothers. After 3 days, Sarah came back, calmer, more respectful, because his refusal to break showed her he was the man she could trust when her emotions failed her. The final test is brutal because it exposes your weakness, but if you pass it, you become unforgettable, because women deep down don't want to break you. They want to know you can't be broken. Lesson 11. The man she can never replace. There is one type of man every woman fears losing, the man she can never replace. He is not the richest, not the most handsome, not the most charming, but he is rare. And rarity is power. In Los Angeles, Sarah dated countless men before meeting Daniel. They bought her gifts, showered her with compliments, tried to impress her. But all of them blurred together. They were predictable. They needed her approval. Then she met Daniel. He was different. He didn't chase.
He didn't seek validation.
He was calm, stoic, dangerous in his silence. He treated her well, but he didn't worship her. He loved her presence, but didn't need it. That's what made him irreplaceable. Because here's the truth. Women don't stay up at night thinking about the men who gave them everything. They stay up thinking about the man who didn't need them, but still chose them. In Manchester, Olivia confessed to her friend, "James doesn't react like other guys. He doesn't beg. He doesn't fight for my attention. He just exists in his own world, and that scares me." That fear is what makes a man unforgettable. When a woman knows you can walk away, when she knows you don't need her validation, when she knows your value is self-contained, she realizes she can never replace you. Toronto gave us another story. Michael dated Emily for 2 years. When they broke up, she thought she'd move on easily. But every man she met afterward felt the same: predictable, needy, replaceable. And that's when the regret hit her. Michael had been rare. His discipline, his calm, his mystery. Those qualities couldn't be copied. Months later, she reached out to him. Not because she missed the relationship, but because she missed the presence of a man who was irreplaceable. The Stoics lived this principle. Epictetus said, "Don't explain your philosophy. Embody it." The man who embodies strength, calm, and discipline becomes unforgettable, not because he talks about it, but because he lives it. Women secretly crave this type of man. In Sydney, Sarah once told Michael, "I know I'll never find another. You." That statement is the highest form of respect a woman can give. It means she has measured you against every other man in her mind and found them lacking. But here's the paradox. You don't become irreplaceable by chasing her. You become irreplaceable by chasing your purpose, your discipline, your growth. Women can replace gifts, compliments, even love. What they cannot replace is a man who commands himself, who is unshakable, who is rare. And when you become that man, she knows losing you means losing something she will never find again. That is the ultimate power. Lesson 12. Why women respect distance more than closeness. Every man thinks that the way to win a woman's heart is to give her constant attention, endless affection, and closeness at all times. But the paradox is this: the more you give, the less she values it. Women don't respect what is always available. They respect what they fear losing. In New York, James was deeply in love with Olivia. He gave her everything, texts every morning, calls every night, constant reassurance that he'd never leave. At first, she loved it. But slowly, the respect faded. She stopped responding with the same energy. She pulled away. James couldn't understand why. He thought closeness was love. But in truth, his constant presence killed the tension. There was no mystery, no distance, nothing for her to chase. Then Olivia met Michael, a man different from James. Michael cared for her, but he wasn't glued to her. He had his own life, his own priorities, his own mission. Sometimes he didn't reply instantly. Sometimes he was unavailable because he was training, working, or with his brothers. That distance created desire. Olivia began to value every moment with him more because she couldn't predict it. She respected him because he respected his own time. In London, Daniel understood this naturally. He never played games, but he never suffocated Sarah either. If she wanted to see him, he made time, but not every single time. He wasn't dismissive, but he wasn't dependent. That balance gave Sarah the space to miss him, and in missing him, she realized his importance. Distance is not about ignoring her. It's about keeping your frame, your mission, your life. It's about never making her the center of your existence. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Love the hand that fate deals you and play it as your own." For what could be more fitting? The Stoic man loves her presence but never clings. He accepts that closeness loses value without space. In Sydney, Michael practiced this with Emily. After an argument, instead of chasing her with messages and calls, he gave her space. A day later, she returned calmer, softer, more respectful. Why? Because his distance forced her to reflect. His silence had more power than any words he could have spoken. Toronto gives us another example. Sarah once told her friend, "When Daniel isn't around, I feel restless. I wonder what he's doing, who he's with, if he's even thinking about me." That restlessness is respect. That's desire. Because when he wasn't constantly available, she valued the time they did share. Closeness without distance breeds contempt, but closeness with distance breeds respect. Women respect the man who gives them love, but also gives them space. They crave closeness, but they worship distance, because distance reminds them that you are not fully theirs. And nothing excites a woman more than knowing she has a man, but can never fully possess him. Lesson 13. The unspoken rule of power in relationships. There's a rule every man must understand. In every relationship, one person holds more power, and it's almost always the one who needs the other less. This is the unspoken rule women live by and the one most men ignore. In Los Angeles, Emily dated Daniel, a man who adored her. He prioritized her above his career, his friends, even his health. She became his world. At first, she felt flattered, but over time, she lost respect. Why? Because he gave her all the power. She knew he would never leave, never stand up to her, never risk losing her. That imbalance suffocated the attraction. Then she met James. James loved her, but James also loved his life. He had standards. He had boundaries. If Emily disrespected him, he addressed it calmly but firmly. If she pulled away, he didn't chase, he let her go. Emily quickly realized that with James, she didn't hold all the power. And that's exactly why she respected him. In Manchester, Olivia once tested Michael by giving him an ultimatum. "If you don't do this, I'll leave." Most men would have panicked, begged, or compromised their values. But Michael simply said, "Then leave. I won't be controlled." That single moment shifted the power dynamic forever, because Olivia realized she could not manipulate him with threats. He was too strong, too self-contained. That's when she understood. This man was the one in control. The Stoics knew this well. Epictetus taught, "He who is not master of himself is a slave, whatever his position may be." In relationships, mastery of yourself is mastery of power. The man who doesn't lose control, who doesn't chase validation, who doesn't bend his values for approval, is the man who holds the power. In Toronto, Sarah once told her friend, "Michael scares me sometimes. Not because he's aggressive, but because I know if I push too far, he'll actually walk away." That fear is not negative. It's respect. It's the acknowledgement that he cannot be fully controlled. And women secretly crave this type of man. In Sydney, Daniel once dealt with Emily's silent treatment. She expected him to break first, to chase, to beg. Instead, he stayed calm, focused on his work. 2 days later, she came back apologizing. Why? Because she realized he had the power. He didn't need her approval. He chose her, but he didn't depend on her. The unspoken rule is simple. The one who controls himself controls the relationship. Women may have beauty, charm, and emotion on their side, but the man who has discipline, boundaries, and stoic control will always hold the power. When you embody this, you become unforgettable, because women know most men can be controlled by love, by fear of loss, by emotion. But the man who cannot be controlled, that is the man she can never replace. Conclusion. So remember this. Rejection is not your enemy. It's your weapon. Reverse psychology is not about cheap tricks. It's about discipline, restraint, and the courage to walk away. A weak man fears rejection, but a strong man uses it as his filter. He knows that every no brings him closer to a better yes. Think about it. The man who chases is always exhausted, always waiting, always begging for approval. But the man who commands himself, who can walk away with calmness, becomes magnetic. Women respect him. Men admire him. Life bends in his direction. Marcus Aurelius lived this truth daily, reminding us that real strength lies not in controlling others, but in mastering yourself. The Stoics understood something modern men forget. When you stop fearing rejection, you stop being controlled. You no longer give others the power to define your worth. Master these 13 lessons, and you'll discover that rejection doesn't weaken you. It elevates you. You'll stop chasing, start commanding, and watch as the world, women, opportunities, respect comes chasing you. Because the man who needs nothing attracts everything. And here's the final secret most men never learn. You don't win a woman's heart by convincing her. You win it by becoming a man so rare, so disciplined, so untouchable, that she convinces herself. That's the power of rejection turned into dominance. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.